Hello, my name is Karl Grün from Austrian Standards International. We are partner of the EU-funded project FORMOBILE. Mobile devices, especially mobile phones, are used more and more in crimes. And this is also a challenge for law enforcement agencies in particular. For instance, a policeman or policewoman arrives at a crime scene and has to seize a mobile phone. But what to consider? Especially how to size this mobile phone to avoid that data is corrupted. Do they have to distinguish between a mobile phone from a victim, a suspect, or a witness? And when this mobile phone is at the forensic laboratory, what does the forensic laboratory to consider? For instance, again, minimizing data, how to archive, to acquire the data in a way that it can be presented in front of the court. And when coming to the court, what does the expert to take into account, to respect? For instance, there's a digital gap because not everybody is familiar with certain terms used in mobile forensic. And so on and so on. And you can see it's more than only technical. It's also about legal and ethical. And to bridge this gap, to bring more confidence in mobile forensic, FORMOBILE has done a breathtaking work. And one of the results of FORMOBILE is a novel European standard called SAN Workshop Agreement. And this SAN Workshop Agreement is now published in March 22. And I will show you how this document, this novel standard was elaborated. So please follow me. I will tell you how it can contribute to bring more confidence in mobile forensic. Follow me. In March 2022, in the framework of the EU-funded project FORMOBILE, a European standardization deliverable was published. This is the first standard dealing with requirements and guidelines for a complete end-to-end mobile forensic investigation chain. It's a so-called SAN Workshop Agreement, which is the forerunner of a novel future European or even international standards. And it's publicly available for download for free from the website of SAN-SANLAC, and you can find the link for the download here on this slide. Before we have started with the drafting of the SAN Workshop Agreement, we have analyzed what are the needs of law enforcement agencies in terms of mobile forensic. For this, we have developed a questionnaire and circulated this questionnaire to law enforcement agencies in Europe. We have asked them, what is the organization where you perform such a forensic investigation? How do you ensure the exchange of information and knowledge between you, colleagues, and other parties involved in forensic investigation? Which technical equipment do you use and what do you need? What are the competencies of the persons involved in the forensic investigation chain? And of course, which standards do you use? Or do you use standards operating procedures? We have received 50 law enforcement agencies replies, and we realized that 2/3 of the law enforcement agencies said, yes, we're using standards when evaluating mobile devices, but there's no standard specific for mobile forensic, for the investigation of mobile devices such as mobile phones. And 1/3 of the law enforcement agencies said, sorry, we don't work to any specific standard because there is no such specific standard for mobile devices. Those who are using standards, they refer to standards like for the accreditation of test laboratories or to standards for information security. Following this identification of the needs of law enforcement agencies, we have performed a gap analysis. So what is in place, but what is needed? And to fill this gap, to overcome, to bridge the gap, we have proposed, so FORMOBILE has proposed the elaboration of a CEN workshop agreement, again, the forerunner of a European standard. And this was circulated to CEN, the European Committee for Standardization, and there we have set up a so-called CEN workshop. The kickoff meeting of this CEN workshop was in April 2020. And for this was announced on the website of CEN. And in addition, due to extensive dissemination activities by FORMOBILE, its network, as well as the network of the partners of FORMOBILE, we have reached out to law enforcement agencies, forensic laboratories, legal and ethical advisors, NGOs, and all others, including technical committees of CEN and CENELEC dealing with forensic sciences and cybersecurity. We have invited them to participate in this endeavor and invited them to attend the kickoff meeting and then to participate in the drafting together in the drafting of the CEN workshop. Already at the beginning, and this was very stable over the whole lifetime of the CEN workshop, we had more than 50 experts coming from 30 organizations, a huge diversity. So organizations like law enforcement agencies from different countries, also tool providers, not only from Europe, but also from outside of Europe. We have participants from forensic laboratories, universities, research organizations, NGOs, legal and ethical advisors. Together, they have elaborated this CEN workshop agreement. Even competitors came together to work for the benefit of all, so to bring forward the topic of forensic investigation of mobile devices. Not to reinvent the wheel, but to improve the wheels. So we have followed this approach also with the CEN workshop agreement, and we referred to existing standards like those for the accreditation of test laboratories or specific information security standards like the famous series of standards 27000. Of course, when applying a CEN workshop agreement, one can assume assume that this also will lead to legal compliance. So it was essential that we have used the existing laws from the European Union, such as directives and regulations, such as the Convention on Cybercrime or the right to inform for information in criminal proceedings. This all was taken into account when drafting the CEN workshop agreement. So this CEN workshop agreement focuses on the personnel, tools, processes, and legal and ethical framework specific for mobile forensics. It includes the following chapters: a chapter dealing with competencies, which means what are the competencies needed for people being involved in mobile forensic investigation chain, the device seizure, the preservation, acquisition, examination, analysis of data, the documentation of all investigation steps, the reporting issues, and of course, evaluation and sharing of information with other law enforcement agencies. An horizontal issue is the consideration of legal and ethical aspects. This was done over a whole chapter, but have a specific clause in the CEN workshop agreement. We have realized in FORMOBILE that forensic investigation has to consider the jurisdiction of the investigation. So it's a little bit different between countries. But nevertheless, the CEN workshop agreements offers a collection of building blocks covering the different aspects of mobile forensics, and this allows adjustment based on national laws and regulation, as well as based on internal rules and codes of conduct. So it's a very smart, intelligent toolbox, this new SAN workshop agreement, which is of huge benefit for practitioners. It allows law enforcement agencies from different countries to accommodate their available technical solution, at the same time offering a standardized collection of procedures and requirements you can trust. In addition to the hard facts, the requirements, we provide with the SAN workshop also some practical guidelines, hands-on information which makes your life easier. For instance, there are some annexes to the SAN workshop agreement dealing with issues like a good practice guide for mobile forensic tool selection, so what you need to consider when you select certain tools. Also a risk register, because also some human rights issues are related with certain tools. Then a very hands-on 6 steps to successful mobile validation. And since we are dealing with exchange of information, the reporting issue, we provide a template for a forensic information report, and also with the tools when using big data or artificial intelligence, what do you need to consider when using artificial intelligence in mobile forensics. Once the SAN workshop agreement was finished in the SAN workshop, so all participants had to their best knowledge, the work is done. The draft was then presented to the public in a so-called open commenting phase. That means that everybody, and not those who are participants in the SAN workshop, had a chance to read the draft and to comment on it. And from this opportunity, there were about 19 organizations having taken this chance and provided about 100 comments. These comments were then resolved by the SAN workshop and have enriched the quality of the SAN workshop agreement. Based on this improved draft, it was then submitted back to the FORMOBILE project and was subject to validation. Validation in 3 work packages. The first one was concentrated on the tools section. This was done for the ring trial of the tools, where it was analyzed, are the provisions in the SAN workshop clear and usable for the tools? So that means, are the requirements included in the SAN workshop agreement, are they implementable? Another topic was the training issue. You know the keyword, it's about competencies. The training means the trainer, so the text of the SAN workshop agreement. Is it understandable? Is it clear? Or is it high a chance that it is not clear? How to correct it? And of course, since we are dealing with legal and ethical issues, we have also validated the SAN workshop agreement from that angle to ensure that an end user referring to the SAN workshop agreement should be able to touch upon all relevant aspects for legally and ethically compliant use of the FORMOBILE results, such as to distinguish between data coming from a witness, a suspect, or a victim. And more broadly, to create a framework with this SAN workshop agreement for a legally and ethically compliant approach to mobile forensics and digital evidence production, which is of benefit and makes your life easier, because otherwise you have some problems coming to court when then the defender says you don't comply with legal and ethical constraints. So applying the SAN workshop agreement with having the number 17065. That leads to enhanced confidence in the evidence using digital or mobile forensic methods. It leads to robust, verified and validated results of mobile forensics presented in court when you follow the requirements and guidelines of this document. With that, the quality of the evaluation results obtained by the means of mobile forensic is improved. The methods of mobile forensics between institutions are harmonized, so there is no gap between the institutions, and that would have negative consequences and would have a negative impact on the whole forensic investigation chain. And of course, it provides a sound basis for better international cooperation between law enforcement agencies, prosecutors, courts, and all parties involved when fighting cross-border crime.
Hello again. So now you have learned how this CEN workshop agreement was elaborated. It was designed to meet the needs expressed by law enforcement agencies and others involved in forensic investigations. It was designed by peers, by colleagues from law enforcement agencies, prosecutors, legal and ethical advisors, research organizations, NGOs and others, meeting your needs together. It was validated, the content of the CEN workshop agreement was validated by FORMOBILE in ring trials of tools to check are the criteria, the requirements on tools included, covered, specified in this document, reliable, implementable. Is also the text of this CEN workshop agreement understandable and clear? And finally, are legal and especially ethical aspects taken into account, fully respected? So when using this CEN workshop agreement, you can trust in the results. You can be confident that you don't violate legal or ethical requirements. So the CEN workshop agreement is there. It can be implemented. It has to be implemented, even it's only a recommendation, but you can rely on that. Why? Again, it was validated. It was designed to meet needs of law enforcement agencies, forensic laboratories, and so on. And especially, it's fit for purpose right now. So implement it and see how to bring criminals in a safe and secure way in front of the court. Thank you very much. All the best.